Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. This is the second video that we put out for you guys today. The first one earlier, we put a video out of the Bengals' final roster cuts, as well as their initial 53-man roster. But tonight, we are doing a waiver wire candidates video. The Bengals are definitely going to go out there and try to bolster their roster before week one. And I'm just going to tell you guys off the bat, there's a reason why a lot of these guys were cut. So they're not the best options out there, but they are options at the end of the day. Before we get into that, though, we put multiple videos out on the channel in the past 24 hours. So this one might not get a push notification. So help me out. Go down there and share today's video so more Bengals fans know what is going on here on the channel. Help me out. Share today's video to social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. Share today's video. All right, the waiver wire will begin tomorrow at noon, and there's, a couple of different things to go through here when it comes to the waiver wire. Basically, each team is going to submit the names of the players that they would like to claim off of the waiver wire, and starting at noon, that's when the NFL kind of goes through and divvies up which player will end up going to which team here. And look, the Bengals do have roster needs after cutting down to their 53-man roster. The offensive line is very, very thin right now. There's also some other spots, maybe safety, running back also could be options for the Bengals going out there and, going through some of these players along the waiver wire here. Paul Dehner Jr. putting this tweet out earlier today after, 4 p.m. right there was when the 53-man roster came out, saying basically, look, the lesson of today is that the Bengals do not trust their offensive line depth, rightfully so. They only kept 8 players along their offensive line. Really, a couple of, spots to monitor, like we just touched on here a second ago. Safety, guard, tackle, and possibly even a fourth running back is some of the positions that we'll be going through here on today's video. Some of the waiver wire rules, though, here for the NFL. The waiver wire order is based off the NFL draft order. So basically, the Tennessee Titans will get first pick of every single player in the waiver wire right now. So it's not like, they pick first and then somebody else picks second. It's just the Titans get their first pick of everybody. The Bengals obviously picked at number 17 in the NFL draft, so they will get the 17th pick for every single person that's out there unclaimed right now. There's also unlimited claims, so theoretically, obviously, it's not going to happen. But if Titans wanted to, they could, select 53 players if they wanted to. The order does not change, so it's like, after they pick, it's not like fantasy football. So, they're going to be the first team to pick through every single player. And also, claiming teams assume the contract and must create a roster spot as well. So, the Bengals, obviously a pretty cheap organization, so they're not going to go out there and claim players that are expensive. There's not really a ton of expensive players out there anyways. But when it comes to some of these spots that the Bengals need to go after, the offensive line, man, like we said, they only kept 8 players along the offensive line, and even the 2 guards that they have at right guard right now are banged up going into the season. I know a lot of people want to go out there and just sign Dalton Risner. I totally agree with you on that as well. But, I mean, who knows? Jalen Rivers might end up playing right guard for the Bengals this year. And at that safety spot, they only have 4 players that they kept at that safety spot. Now, they do also have Dejon Anthony that they put on IR and is expected to return, but still, I think you could go out there and maybe help yourself out in the waiver wire. So will the Bengals claim a player off of the waiver wire? Let me know what you guys think down at the pinned comment of today's video. Type Y for yes or N for no. Will the Bengals make any waiver wire claims? All right, let's start off here along the offensive line. Cole Strange got waived by the New England Patriots. And, he was a first-round pick back in 2022 by Bill Belichick. And, man, that one just has not really panned out. He was selected number 29 overall. And in the past 3 seasons, he's, been okay. But, the snap share for him has went down every single season. First 2 years just did not start off very good at all. And, only played in 2 games in the preseason. So you go out there, he'd be a body for you, former first-round pick. But, even back in 2022 during the NFL draft, a lot of people kind of laughed at that selection. Kenyon Green is the next player here along the offensive line. Really, he's only played at that left guard spot throughout his NFL career. He was also a first-round pick back in 2022. Last year in 2024, just was not very good at all. In those 11 games as well, he only played about 580 snaps too. So, he was in and out of the lineup there for the Eagles, but also another guy who has really only played at that left guard spot. So, like I said, I'm going to continue to kind of say this throughout most of these guys here. There's a reason they were cut because, in the preseason, they just haven't been very good. Javion Cohen is the next player here. He only played 85 snaps in the preseason. Kind of moved around throughout college, started off at Alabama, ended up going to Miami. And, he was a guy that, in his early days of college, he was kind of thought as, early day 2 kind of pick, ended up going as an undrafted free agent to the Cleveland Browns in 2024. So, during the preseason, actually the last 2 games in the preseason, he actually did play pretty well. That first game against the Panthers wasn't very good, but he is another option out there for you. And he does have a little bit of position flexibility playing those guard spots, both left and right. So you never know, that could be another option for the Bengals here. Another option along the offensive line is Logan Brown. He ended up getting waived by the Minnesota Vikings. He was also an undrafted free agent in this past year's NFL draft out of Kansas. In the preseason, he played 105 snaps and, didn't give up a sack, but did give up a couple quarterback pressures as well, as he was a little bit of a penalty boy, but did play a little bit both at that left tackle spot and at that right tackle spot. So that is an option for you, could be a tackle depth option for the Bengals if they wanted to go out and claim him off of waivers. Kendall Lamm, also another option for them here. He ended up getting waived by the Eagles. And Kendall Lamm is a guy that's been around for a while. He actually was an undrafted free agent back in 2015 out of Appalachian State. And, beginning on in his career, just really started off a little bit slow, but then in 2018 got an opportunity to play a lot for Houston, kind of bounced around a little bit, and most recently, last year was with the Miami Dolphins, where he ended up playing around 500 snaps for them, both at right tackle and at left tackle. Played a lot at right tackle last season, over 400 snaps for him there. But like I keep kind of saying, there's a reason a lot of these guys were cut off their current teams. They're just not the best options, but that's where we're sitting right now when it comes to these waiver wire claims. All right, we'll continue here in just a second, but tonight's show is presented by Prize Picks. Football season is almost here, and college football is officially back, so don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. I personally use Prize Picks for so many types of different sporting events, whether it's professional football, basketball, baseball, college sports, MMA, boxing, and so much more. Prize Picks is a ton of fun, and if you guys know ball, you can win real money all season long on Prize Picks. We cooked up a little Prize Picks slate for you guys coming up this weekend. First weekend of college football, first real weekend of college football anyways. Ohio State versus Texas, going with Arch Manning. More than 1.5 passing touchdowns for him. Jeremiah Smith, 49.5 receiving yards, going with a more than on that. And then Julian Sand, it is his first start here with Ohio State, going up against a very, very good Texas defense. I kind of think they're going to have at least one interception on him. He does take care of the ball, but, him being a young player, this being his first, official start with the Buckeyes, think he might throw one interception, so going with a more than on that as well. Prize Picks is very simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money today. Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means you can cash out if your lineup is not perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link is in the description of today's video. It's also going to be down at the pinned comment of today's video as well. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, the Dallas Cowboys ended up releasing Julius Woods here. I guess waived Julius Woods. There's a little bit of a difference there. Ended up releasing Julius Woods, and I think he could be an option at that safety spot, just to have at least another body until Dejon Anthony gets back in the lineup. He played 9 games for the Cowboys last year, but didn't really do a ton for them. Didn't have any PBUs, no interceptions, only had 2 tackles for them for the Cowboys last year as well. So, it is a body. If you want to go out there and do it, that is an option at that safety spot. Jabbar Muhammad is also a very, very interesting one to me. He got waived by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, he was a guy that coming out of college, I thought he was going to be a little bit better, than he has been anyways here. He started off his career at Oklahoma State, then goes to Washington, has an incredible year with Washington, ended up, that year that they went to the national championship game. He had multiple PBUs, multiple interceptions for them, was a tackling machine for them as well. So maybe a change of scenery, just getting him in to a different organization, a different fit for him. That could be a very, very solid option. He's a young player as well. So, Jabbar Muhammad might be a solid option there at that safety spot. Jarek Reed also is another option for the Bengals here. He's played for the Seahawks for the past 2 years. He's done a little bit on special teams as well. But when it comes to coverage and stuff like that, hasn't really, had a ton of opportunities. He played in 10 games in 2023 for Seattle, but only got thrown at 2 times and only gave up 7 yards on 1 catch. So, there's a lot of guys that, haven't really played a ton. They're really not going to be a bunch of starters that you're picking from at the end of the day when it comes to these waiver wire claims. All right, so name a player that you guys would like to claim off of waivers. Get down there to the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Name a player that you guys would like the Bengals to claim off of waivers. All right, let's go and look at the running back position now. I think this one's pretty interesting. Audric Estime, he's in 2024, he played 13 games, and I think when it comes to him, he's could be an option for the Bengals as a, possible 4th running back. I kind of think Kendall Milton was a better option. So it kind of sucks that you ended up letting him go to get down to 53 guys. And, he's probably not going to get to you on waivers. So, there's a lot of different, guys here that, you probably had better options that you ended up having to let go. The running back market is just not very good right now in this waiver market. Damian Martinez is also the next guy here. He is a rookie. He was a 7th round pick to the Seattle Seahawks. And, he was also a guy coming out of college this past season that, the past 2 years had over 1,000 yards, also did some stuff in the receiving game. For both Oregon State and Miami in the past 2 seasons. I think he is probably, when it comes to some of these young guys, probably one of the better options at running back. Israel Abanikanda is the next guy here. He didn't really get an opportunity to play a ton with the Jets last year, ended up signing with Green Bay in free agency there, and he really doesn't have a lot to show from it, just from a stats perspective. Had 22 carries last year for only 70 yards. But, when it comes to, I think his ability, he's a very, very fast, kind of change of pace type of running back. He could be another option for the Bengals at that running back spot. All right, what is your confidence level in this Cincinnati Bengals roster as it sits right now? Scale it for me 1 to 10, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Get down there and let me know what you guys think. All right, Cam Akers is also another option at that running back spot. The New Orleans Saints ended up waiving him, and he is actually one of these vested veterans, so he actually doesn't have to go through waivers. He doesn't have to go through that process and get cleared. So he's a free agent at this point. He can sign anywhere he wants at this point. So, he could also be one of the better running backs right now that is out there. So, you never know. There's a reason the Saints ended up cutting him. Ran for 444 yards last year, a couple touchdowns as well, but also does that have that big play ability that the Bengals might be looking for. One more vested veteran out there as well. Dan Skipper also got released from the Lions as well. And, I mean, what can I say? Dan Skipper, at the end of the day, he's one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL when he was in his prime. Last year, only allowed 1 sack in 15 games. There might be a chance that he ends up just signing with the Lions again, but when you want somebody who has experience, Dan Skipper is that guy, especially, when you're looking at your offensive line right now, you need a lot of depth. Does Dan Skipper want to be a depth piece? Probably not. He probably wants to go out there and start, but, when you're talking about veteran leadership, Dan Skipper is a guy to monitor.